Hi everyone, I'm Christy, the Semi Crafty Librarian. I'm so glad that you're tuning in because I have to say I absolutely love this craft today. So you can see right behind me is the little ice cream cone garland, and I thought it was really fitting in July to make an ice cream cone garland. And honestly, I just think it's so happy and cute. So and really easy. So what do we need? Let me go over our supplies here. So the basics, right? Pair of scissors, a pencil, a pen, got a little bit of thin rope here, got some construction paper. Actually pulled out a manila envelope too because when I'm putting together supplies, I really try to find things, so one thing at least that everyone might have in their house. So if you don't have brown construction paper, maybe you've got a manila folder, maybe you're less likely to have a manila folder than you are to have brown paper. But I also pulled out just kind of a piece of cream colored print paper. You could also use maybe if you've got a piece of cardstock, whatever. There are lots of ways that you can make the cone part. Um, then the yarn. So I happened to choose these colors just because they were kind of rainbow colors and I thought they were bright, and I really liked them. But of course, you can use whatever colors that you want. Now, the other thing that I have is a glue gun. So as usual, warnings about glue guns, right? Be careful. And if kids are making this project, please help them with a glue gun, obviously. Oh, and I also have these cute little pom poms that I put on top of my ice cream cones for the cherries. So, how do you make a pom pom? Pretty easy. This is what they're going to look like after you wrap them, but before you cut them. So, I'm going to use my purple here and I'm going to show you how to make a pom pom. Easiest way that I know how is you just take your yarn, put it between your thumb and your forefinger, and you just start wrapping. Now, I kind of spread my fingers out. It keeps it the string straight and a little wider, and kind of use right below my fingers here on the top part of my hand, and I just wind. And the more yarn that you wind, the bigger and thicker that your pom pom will be. So in this particular case, since it's the top of an ice cream cone, I made mine kind of big, but I think you could make this with much smaller cones and much smaller pom poms, and it actually would look really cute too. So I'm going to keep wrapping, keep wrapping, keep wrapping. Go. Okay, so then I don't count, but I think that's my semi crafty nature. If you really want a consistent pom pom, probably going to count the wraps so that you can do it with each pom pom. But I kind of guesstimate, and you can kind of feel as you're wrapping it how thick it is and how big it's going to be. So you take it off, you cut it, and then cut yourself a fairly long piece because you want to tie it in the middle, but you also want to leave a little bit of length to tie to your rope. And this is the trick, okay? You have to tie this really tightly around your yarn um, thing here. So you tie it really tight, okay? The tighter, the better. So if you have an extra set of hands around, maybe you can ask somebody to hold the knot down for you while you tie, okay? So once you've gotten it nice and tight, I'm going to tie it one more time, just to make sure. Then this is the part that you cut to make the pom pom. So nice sharp pair of scissors, hopefully, that you have, and you just cut that, and you shake it out a little bit, and then you cut on the other side, and you shake it out, and you kind of have to spread it out a little bit so that it makes a nice pom-pom shape. And then you can trim the strands too. I did not trim mine up here so you can see they're kind of slightly scraggly looking, but you can trim so that you have a nice even looking pom-pom. So just take your scissors and kind of give it a little trim so that they're all the same size. And it's going to make your pom-pom a little smaller when you trim. So keep that in mind if you want to trim it so that it looks a little cleaner, a little neater, and the strands of yarn will stick out if they're a little bit shorter, a little bit better too. So once you get your pom-pom, perfect pom-pom shape, you just do as many as you think you're going to want for your garland. Okay, so looks a little bit like that. So this is a little smaller one that I tied up here. So let me cut it and I'll show you what a little bit smaller one looks like. And I did notice, because when I made the pom-poms on the garland here, that all of the yarn was a different weight. So that means a different thickness. And some of the yarn made better pom-poms than other yarn. So it kind of just depends on what yarn you're using. This particular yarn, it's pretty thin. I don't think it makes as nice and fluffy and round as a pom-pom. So you can kind of see it's sort of a sad looking little pom-pom. But this is where you would trim, right? To make it the size and thickness that you want. Now, once you cut too much, if you cut too much off, you know, you got to start over. So be careful with the scissors, a little bit at a time, right? I don't even know if this is going to look good here. All right, let's see what we got. No, I really don't think this is a very great looking pom-pom. So some yarn maybe just won't work, right? I'm going to keep trimming though. And you can see how this may or may not work. So as compared to our little purple pom-pom, this is not looking so good. So anyways, you just work with it, fluff it out a little bit, and eventually it'll look just fine. Okay, so that's the pom-pom part. So let me show you the comb part. Okay, this was actually pretty easy. So I cut my squares of brown paper and I just drew the little lines on it. I did not use a ruler. However, I know some of you out there will want very straight lines. So you're going to want to get a ruler or a straight edge of some sort. These are 5 by 5. So you just draw your square. You could draw your lines on it before you cut it out too, but cut it out. And you just draw your little cone lines on it. So let's be a little more precise with this one. I'm just going to use the straight edge of this paper and not burn myself on the glue gun there. Okay, I'm just going to come down now. Obviously, I'm not measuring it, so I'm hoping by the time I get to the bottom of this paper, we're going to end slightly even here. Okay, so you just draw your lines if you want to be really precise here so that you get a nice, neat looking cone. And then you can go over it with your marker. So get your nice straight edge here. And then once you get that side, those lines, you're going to do your vertical lines. So we're going to turn it over, and I'm not going to draw them with a pencil. I'm just going to freehand it here. Okay, so you get what looks like a little grid. Okay, now this is where you're going to take your paper and your scissors and cut a little bit of a curve. And again, you can use like the side of a bowl if you want, just to get a nice curve, a nice even curve. You can kind of trim this up a little bit too after you make the cone part. Okay, now for some reason this seemed like the most complicated part for me. So you just kind of have to make your cone the best that you can. Kind of want a little point on the bottom, so you just, it's easier to start with the point on the bottom and then work your cone shape on the top a little bit, okay? So I'm going to trim it right there because I want this to be the front. And with a glue stick or with some Elmer's glue to be a little bit easier, you're just going to glue this side of the paper down, and since I don't have my glue stick, I'll just use the glue gun and glue that edge down. And then you can see this part probably needs to be trimmed a little bit, so I'm just going to trim it a little bit. So you have your cone shape like that. Then you're going to take your pom-pom. We'll use the purple one that we made. See how it looks in there. Let's trim it a little bit. I think I want it to look a little bit smaller because our pom-pom's a little smaller. So, okay, I think that's a little bit better. So you're going to run your glue, your hot glue. You could probably do this with Elmer's or with school glue too. It just might take a little bit longer to dry it. So just run a bead of glue around the top of the cone. Make sure your little long piece of yarn is on the top. You're going to set that in there. Now, what I did was I kind of put my finger in there and I made sure that some of the little pom-pom strands were sticking in the glue. Okay, so that's what's going to glue the pom-pom to the cone. And when it dries, you can fluff it out a little bit more. And then you'll have your little ice cream cone. And if you have these cute little tiny pom-poms, you can glue one on the top like that. Or a little cherry. Okay. Now, so once you make all of your cones, you get your pom-poms glued in there, you're going to make the garland. You'll string them up on your garland. So you're just going to take the long part that should be sticking out of your pom-pom, and you're going to tie it on your garland rope or yarn or string, whatever you're going to be using, and you just keep tying them all the way, however many you have on your garland. Then you can actually kind of maneuver them a little bit once that they're tied on here. You can center them so they're even. And I just think it's so very cute and adorable. You can do these for a party or just for a summer decoration in your house. Well, okay, so that is the pom-pom snow cone. I hope you liked it, and I hope you tried making one. And we'll see you next week. Keep reading if you're doing summer reading, okay? Thanks. Bye.